just a short presentation. I don't want to be long, and please don't hesitate to to write down some questions if there are some in the air. It's about the national church planting process. It's this NC2P, but we said for France it's not very good to speak about PP, so we would say 2P. So it's national church planting process in Europe. And just a brief history, just the end of the history, I would say. It's just with Dawn, we really were thinking about Dawn, and many tried a lot of good things with it. And finally, in the history, in the context of our European context, it was not very effective. Some things really worked well, other things not. So we continued to think about, and when I say we, it's basically a lot of friends, but at least this bunch of friends here, with Øyvind Oglen from Norway, Rafle Anzenberger from France, currently in Canada, Dietrich Schindler, a German living in America and coming back to Europe, Jiří from Czech Republic, Ron Anderson, oh, I heard about him, Martin Robinson from UK. Also Murray was in that group, and I joined them later on after a meeting in 2015 in Madrid. And these guys were just taking the ball in the feet with many reflections and things that already happened in Europe, and they really stick the head and the hearts together just to listen to God and to design some elements that could be strategically effective in a European context. And I just want to share these simple things, and I really believe in simple things, because complex things don't multiply and simple things can. So let's remain very simple. What is a national church planting process? It has the words national. It means that it's specific to a region, maybe a nation. It's also specific to a group of leaders, not belonging to that nation, but at least concerned by this nation. We speak about church, and we believe that we can multiply any kind of churches. It has already been said, from more traditional churches up to CPMs, DMMs, or whatever. And when a church planting process is effective, it has around 70% of the churches of that national region, or that specific region, participating in it. We started in Switzerland with 95%, at least in the meeting. Then we started and realized we had only 23% of the guys in, and we had to come back and to re-engage a lot of church families, inviting them to join. And today we're again at around 80%, and the national church planting process works in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. We speak about planting, sure, multiplication of life. I think I don't have to explain that to church planters. Then it's about a process. A process is not something that happens immediately. It's something that really can grow, can develop itself, and this is exactly what we're proposing or living in the nations in Europe. Is that we coach simple processes with ongoing systems in the nations, and I will come back to that later on. So again, what is a national church planting process? One important thing, and this is the Swiss map, it could be another nation, it doesn't matter, just to mention that there are always these complementary dynamics present in a nation. We have these bottom-up dynamics and these top-down dynamics. In the top-down dynamics, we have denominational projects, we have international networks, planting churches, but we also have this NC2P the dynamic that is, we have to say, a top-down dynamic. And there are sure these independent projects, CPMs and DMMs, with maybe some apostolic leaders or people really starting from the ground and developing things. And we realize that there's in the middle, there's a really interesting meso level. It's a really interesting region where we can live cross-pollinating. We can live hybrid models that have been developed. Sometimes we now have, in some places we have traditional churches with a DMM dynamic that is taking place in a part of that church. There are also meta platforms present, meaning national alliances or places where people have confidence and appreciate to meet. It's not in every nation, but in some it is present. It's just these are just basic elements, but it's good to know, I think. So what do we need if we want to start a national church planting process? This group of friends realized, and has already been mentioned by Murray and also by Ron, in every nation of the continent or the region, concerned region, the following 4 mission critical components are implemented. First, we need leadership. This means trained church planters, leaders, people who really unite in that place and invite, even if there are some differences between the concerned churches or leaders, just to gather these people able to speak. So they are mainly also bridge builders, if I can say. We need gatherings, at least from time to time, to have places where we can share the vision, where we can share best practices, what is working, what is not working, where do we have to take care, and so on. And these gatherings are also the relational aspect of it. We really appreciate this in our culture. In some other cultures, it's less focused, but I think it's an additional catalytic dynamic that can help in such a process. There are also researches, mapping. It has been mentioned before. Mapping is made where do we need to plant churches, not just geographically, but also which kind of people group is not reached today. Maybe they are not just geographically located, but they are maybe connectable through different strategies or different techniques. So understanding the field, it's really, really basic stuff, but it's so important, and it takes a lot of time and energy. In some nations, some regions, this means we have to connect with the elders, with older people already in that business for a longer time, and learn from them. And this is also something that unifies, that really helped also in Switzerland. And we need the 4th mission critical component are systems. We can say system without an S, or we can systems. Some nations just use one system, some nations use many systems, but these systems help for recruitment, for assessment. Is this guy, is this lady, is this group really able to plant a church? Otherwise, it would be dangerous to send them out and do it. There's training, there are coaching elements, quality management aspects, and so on. And there are several systems we use in Europe, like DCPI, M4, and also the French friends invented, like many times they love to invent new things, and they reinvented also their own system. And that's absolutely okay. How does it work? It's really simple, as I mentioned. It's all about mutualization. And when I speak about the NC2P, I usually present like this rocket. It's not a military one. It's just for traveling. Yes. There's a tip. The tip is the goal. We really fix for every nation can set down or write down the goal they want to pursue. For example, in France, they said, we want at least one church for 10,000 French people. Today, they are around 1 to 20,000, so it's still work in progress, but when they started, they planted a new church every 64 days. Today, it's every 8th day. So they really strategized to do that. It's not only NC2P, but it's an important part of it. Others want to plant 100 churches per year. For sure, it depends on the size of the nation. In Switzerland, 100 churches, maybe we're already over saturation. I don't know. We choose, in French-speaking part of Switzerland, we choose every 5. We believe that every disciple is multiplying at least once within 5 years, and also every church is plants a new church every 5th year. Then we have an ongoing learning community. We want to learn from each other. We also give some input, we give some teaching, some learnings, but at the same time, the main part of the meeting really lives out from what people share, what they have as questions. And this ongoing learning community is a real blessing, also for unity in the nation. Then we have some training systems, M4, DCPI, CFRI, the French one, and then as I don't know how we say it in English. The gas, the fire that comes out behind is the storytelling. Oh yeah, okay. Thank you. The stories we hear about it, I'm so encouraged what I hear happening, for example, in Czech Republic, in Norway, and they have a national church planting process for 10th of years, and they have such a load of experience. We really can learn from them, and this really helps also in the researches, in the gatherings, and so on. So these are the basic components translated in this simple rocket. Then there's a system, for example, in a nation, and we have assemblies of God, and they go through this system and plant what? They plant an assembly of God. Then we have Mennonites, and they plant what? They plant Mennonite churches. And again, we have Anglicans, and they plant Anglican church. So the system is not changing the DNA of the partner, who are mutualizing together these elements on these central systems. So this is a real security for the denominations or the church families to connect. So they know we will not try to make something else out of them. They really can remain who they are. They really have their identity, and they can connect with this identity to this simple way of mutualizing some church planting efforts. This is the multiplication process we all know. It all starts with prayer for the harvest, and it leads us into sharing the gospel, testimony, and evangelism. The strategies are great, and discipleship, not just having converts, but really mature Christians able to multiply again, and this leads to church planting. And Jesus ordered or commanded discipleship in Matthew 28. He did not order or command a church planting movement, but I think it's possible to have the starting point at this point, if these different elements are really connected together. We tend to separate these 4 elements and make church activities out of them. If we remain them connected, if we have them connected together, we have a real powerful multiplication process that really can end, or not end, but really be mature in a church planting process. If you pray for the harvest and go to reap the harvest and disciple these people and do it a lot of times, you need no new churches. And this is what we want to focus, not having just people transferred from one church to another, but really reaching the people in the nations to plant new churches there. So where do we stand in Europe? I'm a little bit more specific now. We have 15 European countries who are developing a national church planting process. Some nations are not in mono process, they are in multi-process. They are the complicated ones, Germany, UK, and some others. And they have to start several processes in their nation in parallel. In Switzerland, we have 2 processes, one in French, one in German, but everything depends on the national situation. Then we have 16 additional countries that are in conversation with us, and they really try to start it. And we have some post-pandemic work in progress. Some churches really suffered from the pandemic, you know that, and revitalization is also an important topic today, and we have to consider that when we start planting churches. People are sometimes more focused on surviving with their church than on multiplying today. But we come back to it's work in progress. So some examples in France, I already mentioned the one for 10,000, sorry. It's the national church planting process that is carried by the National Alliance, Evangelical Alliance, working together with different organizations. But it's really interesting to see, they really inspired us in Switzerland to start. And Raphael Anzenberg, some of you maybe know him, he was really good in sharing the vision, and our denominational leaders, they really were impressed and wanted to do it, and we did it. In Norway, as I mentioned, they have already the 5th or 6th leader, main leader coordinating the Send Norge. You can go to the website. If you type Send Norge, you will come to a Norwegian website, which is very, very interesting for those who read Norwegian. But it simply shows that it's a mature process. They're already doing a lot of things for years. And also La Plaza, Ron Anderson is involved in coordinating that process with a great team. And in Spain, they really do the job. I really appreciate hearing from them and learning from them. And in Switzerland, we have 2 processes. We call the first and the French one every 5. And in German speaking regions, it's Gemeindegründung Schweiz. Genau. These processes went through challenging times in the pandemic, but at the same time, it also has been an encouragement for many church families to be together already in something that exists. And it was a real encouragement to see these denominational leaders standing together, encouraging each other not to stop and to continue the work. And I think it was a blessing to have these national church planting processes already going on. We have this matrix, and the tipping point it has already been shown. We have an European one. We also have these 4 criteria Murray mentioned: national leadership, strategic information gatherings, and systems. And we have different colors. It's the same definition. I don't want to repeat that. Thank you, Murray, for explaining it very clearly. And we also measure some aspects, some elements in the nations. We measure, for example, the net increase in total of evangelical congregations, the numbers. We also count the increased evangelical attendance. It's a point we want to observe to understand what's going on the ground. And we also have an indicator for majority cooperation. We have some nations who really struggle to work, where people really struggle to work together. And we really appreciate to have this feedback from the field. And there's also a tipping point. And it's an interesting fact with the tipping point is, as soon as you have reached this tipping point, you don't have to give much energy that it continues. It's like self-explaining, self-working, and it's we have some processes that are after the tipping point, some are at the tipping point, some are before the tipping point. In Switzerland, we're still working hard to go towards this tipping point, but we want to reach that, and I think we'll do. Just some words of conclusion. I don't want to be longer. I have taken some time here. The development of national church planting processes in European countries has given access to missional church planting to dozens of church families who had not experienced it for decades, some of them, even to state churches. So church planting churches has been like lost. It was not a church activity anymore. And it really came back for many of them. We also realized that revitalization goes hand in hand with church multiplication, and we use basically the same tools to revitalize than to plant a church. And that's interesting to have this connection, because when people made a revitalization process, they can use the same tool to multiply themselves in a new church. And that's a really interesting strategy. Also, the dynamic environment of the national church planting processes, it really opens up new ways of returning to an effective missionary or missional vision. In Europe, many churches lost that missional vision. They exist for themselves, and really many of them are coming back. I think it's not our job, it's the spirit that really brings people back to the mission. But there was a really interesting man, maybe you know him, he's called Jossi Shako from India. And he said in Switzerland, guys, you have to go back. You have to go from maintenance mode to mission mode. And we really heard that and listened carefully to that. And it triggered something, at least in our nation. And finally, the NC2P model is simple and accessible, and therefore multipliable regionally, nationally, and continentally.